Hello, the problem of today is mate in 2 that has a very nice geometric pattern, and you are invited to solve it. It's very tricky, very nice, and I'm showing immediately what's going on. The squares around the black king are all well guarded. The knight on c3 controls b1 and d1. The bishop on d2 controls c3 and c1. The pawn e2 controls d3. And then all the squares around the black king are controlled. Now, you have what is called a half battery that is pointing to the black king, and you have the bishop g8 that is pointing to b3. The simple thought for this is to take one of the rooks off its place and then to threaten to play with the other rook to free the diagonal and to give mate. Let's say, for example, rook h5, threatening to move the rook e4 anywhere. Queen d6, so the rook cannot on the same time intercept the d line and the 6th rank. So this is the refutation, and we consequently may think that we have at the key to forbid this move. For example, let's try rook f5, f4. Pawn takes on h3, controlling the g6 square, and because at the key we forbid the possible move rook e4, g4, this is now a refutation. If we try rook f5, e5, we have the same kind of interception now, and black will be able to play rook c6 that is controlling the g6 square, because the move e4, e6 is now not possible. If we go with the other rook, the problem will be the same. If we don't do something special, the queen will be able to go to d6. So we'll try to intercept the queen, not to give her the access of d6. But if we play rook e4, f4, you'll have pawn takes on e2, and then the rook on f5 will not be able to go to f3 to give mate. So this is the refutation. And if we go to e5, the same thing, will have rook d7, and the move rook f5, d5 will not be possible. We have another kind of solution to deal with the move queen d6, to close in advance or the d column or the 6th rank. For example, we can go at the key rook e6. Rook e6 deals with queen d6 by the possible now rook d5, but after rook e6 you have the bishop on g8 that is closed, and then black can move freely its bishop a4, bishop b5 that is controlling on d3. The bishop cannot give mate. So this is the refutation. In the same way, if we play rook d5 that deals with queen d6 by rook e6 mate, we intercept also the bishop, and then the move bishop e8 that controls g6 is a refutation, because the bishop g8 cannot give mate on b3. If we try rook f6, that is giving nothing negative nor against the white rook nor against the bishop g8, and that is dealing with queen d6 by preparing rook d4. We'll have pawn takes on f6, and now the possibility of pawn f6 to f5 forbids any mate by the rook e4. So the last move, that is in fact the key, is rook d4, that is closing the d line, and if queen goes to d6 we'll have rook f6 mate, and for any other moves you will have mate. So let's have a look. After rook d4, if pawn takes on e2, rook f3. If pawn takes on h3, rook g5. If rook plays on c6, rook f6, and so on. If queen goes on f4, rook takes. If queen or pawn goes to e5, rook takes. And if the bishop goes, let's say, to d7 to control f5, you will have bishop b3. You have in this problem the way the two rooks are disturbing each other on the two squares f4 and e5, and how also they disturb the bishop g8 on e6 and on d5. So all in all, a very nice problem. This version I made just because it is a few pieces less. The original position was also very nice, and I'll show you now just for you to have a look. It has 3 pieces more, and but less white pieces on the board, and that's all. So I hope you enjoyed it, and bye. Thank you for all.